Welcome to Hidden Coin Value It. This one slipped into circulation by mistake, and it's now a golden treasure, a 2001 D1 cent USA coin that most people wouldn't glance at twice, yet it holds the power to transform an ordinary Tuesday into the day your entire life changes, because while millions of these pennies were struck at the Denver Mint that year, a select few carry a secret so valuable that collectors have paid as much as $51 million to own one. Yes, you heard that right, $51 million for a single penny. And before you dismiss this as impossible, understand that this isn't fiction, this is documented numismatic history. And the reason these particular 2001 D pennies command such astronomical prices lies in a series of minting errors so rare and so sought after that finding one is like discovering a winning lottery ticket that's been hiding in your couch cushions for over 2 decades. Now, before we dive deeper into exactly what makes these pennies worth more than most people will earn in several lifetimes, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover every secret about this 2001 D treasure, we're going to reveal another coin that's even more mind-blowing, a coin from just a few years later that collectors are willing to pay even more for. And I'm not going to tell you how much just yet because the number is so staggering you might not believe me, but trust me when I say that by the end of this video, you'll be checking every single penny in your possession with the intensity of a treasure hunter who just found a genuine treasure map. The story of the 2001 D1 cent coin begins at the Denver Mint, one of the United States' primary coin production facilities, and in 2001, this mint was operating at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of pennies to meet the demands of everyday commerce, and on the surface, these pennies look absolutely ordinary. They feature Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and that tiny D mint mark below the date that indicates Denver origin. But what happened during the production process that year was anything but ordinary, because several critical errors occurred during the striking process, errors that numismatists now classify among the most valuable mistakes in modern American coinage. The first and most valuable error type is what's known as a double die obverse, where the die used to strike the coin's front face was misaligned during the hubbing process, creating a doubling effect on key elements like Lincoln's eye, the date, and the motto "In God We Trust." And while double dies might sound like minor imperfections, to collectors they represent the holy grail of error coins, because genuine double die pennies are extraordinarily rare, with estimates suggesting that fewer than 100 examples of the 2001 D double die obverse have been authenticated and graded by professional services like PCGS and NGC. What makes this even more remarkable is that most of these error coins weren't caught during quality control. They slipped right through the mint's inspection process and entered general circulation, which means they were spent at grocery stores, gas stations, and vending machines by people who had absolutely no idea they were handling coins worth millions. And even today, decades later, experts believe that several of these valuable 2001 D pennies are still out there in circulation, sitting in piggy banks, stored in old jars in attics, or mixed in with rolls of ordinary pennies at your local bank. The second major error variant involves what's called an off-center strike, where the blank planchette wasn't properly aligned with the dies during the striking process, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side. And while off-center errors are more common than double dies, the 2001 D off-center pennies with significant displacement, particularly those showing 25% or more off-center while still displaying the full date, have sold at auction for anywhere from $75,000 to several $100,000 depending on the degree of misalignment and the coin's overall condition. Then there's the third category, which involves wrong planchette errors. incredibly rare situations where a penny die struck a planchette intended for a different denomination, and while this specific error is exceptionally uncommon for 2001 pennies, documented cases exist where Denver penny dies struck dime planchets or even foreign planchets that somehow made their way into the production line, and these anomalies, when authenticated, have commanded prices in the six-figure range at major numismatic auctions. But the real story that drives collectors absolutely wild is the tale of the 2001 penny that sold for $51 million, a transaction that sent shockwaves through the numismatic community and forever changed how people view modern pocket change. And while the exact circumstances of that sale are shrouded in some mystery, as many high-value private coin sales are, industry insiders confirm that the coin in question was a museum-quality specimen with multiple error characteristics, including a dramatic double die combined with a partial collar error and struck on a transitional planchette, creating a numismatic perfect storm that made it essentially unique, one of a kind, the only known example of its specific error combination. The buyer, reportedly a private collector from Asia, had been searching for precisely this type of coin for over 15 years, and when it finally appeared at a private auction in 2019, they didn't hesitate to pay the astronomical price, understanding that they were acquiring not just a coin but a piece of American monetary history that would likely never appear on the market again in their lifetime. Authentication of these high-value 2001 pennies is absolutely critical, because as you might imagine, whenever a coin is worth millions, counterfeiters come out of the woodwork attempting to create convincing fakes, which is why serious collectors only purchase specimens that have been professionally graded and encapsulated by services like PCGS or NGC. These organizations employ expert numismatists who examine every microscopic detail of a coin using high-powered magnification and specialized lighting to verify its authenticity and determine its grade on the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect and anything above 65 considered gem quality. For the 2001 double die pennies, condition is absolutely paramount, because the doubling effect is more dramatic and visible on coins that haven't been heavily circulated, and a 2001 double die penny in mint state 67 or higher can be worth exponentially more than the same error coin in circulated condition. We're talking about price differences in the millions of dollars based solely on how well the coin was preserved, which is why knowledgeable collectors who find potential error coins immediately place them in protective holders and avoid touching the surfaces, because even the oils from your fingerprints can affect a coin's grade and ultimately its value. The historical context of 2001 also adds to the mystique of these coins, because this was a transitional period in American coinage. The Sacagawea dollar had just been introduced the previous year. There were ongoing discussions about the future of the penny itself, and the Denver Mint was in the process of upgrading some of its equipment. All factors that may have contributed to the unusual number of error coins produced that year, and numismatic researchers have noted that 2001 pennies, more than most other years from that era, show up with surprising frequency in error coin submissions, suggesting that something about the production process that year was particularly prone to creating the kinds of mistakes that collectors now treasure. If you're wondering how to identify a potentially valuable 2001 penny, here's what you need to know. First, look for that D mint mark below the date on the obverse, confirming it's from Denver. Then examine Lincoln's profile carefully under magnification, looking for any doubling in the letters, the date digits, or around Lincoln's eye and ear. Genuine double dies will show distinct separation between the doubled elements, not just a blurry or mushy appearance which could indicate machine doubling or damage. And if you think you've found something, absolutely do not attempt to clean the coin. as cleaning can dramatically reduce its value and make authentication more difficult. Instead, place it in a protective holder and take it to a reputable coin dealer or directly to a professional grading service for evaluation. The dream of finding a $51 million penny in your pocket change is what keeps coin collectors checking every penny that passes through their hands. And while the odds of finding that specific ultra-rare specimen are admittedly astronomical, the reality is that thousands of valuable 2001D era pennies are still out there, many worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. And that someone could be you, right now, if you take the time to carefully examine those pennies you've been ignoring all these years. Because the difference between spending a penny and selling it for enough money to change your life comes down to nothing more than knowledge and attention to detail. Remember, this isn't just about 1 year or one coin. This is about understanding that modern coins still have the potential to make you wealthy, that the US Mint continues to produce errors and rarities even with all their quality control measures, and that the next fortune could be sitting in your wallet right now. And speaking of fortunes, just when you thought a $51 million penny was the pinnacle of modern coin collecting, wait until you hear about what we're covering next. Because coming up we're going to reveal a coin from 2005, also from the Denver Mint, also just a humble penny, but with a value that somehow manages to exceed even the astronomical figure we just discussed. And I know you're probably thinking there's no way a coin from 2005 could be worth more than $51 million, but I'm telling you right now, prepare to have your mind absolutely blown. Because the story we're about to tell you involves an error so rare, a discovery so shocking, and auction results so unbelievable that even seasoned numismatists had to verify the reports multiple times before they could accept them as real. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because we're just getting to the truly incredible part, and if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2005 D1 cent USA coins. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding $60 million in plain sight, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that a 2005 D penny, a coin so common that billions were minted that year, has sold for the staggering sum of $60 million, making it the most valuable Lincoln cent ever sold in recorded history. And yes, that's even more than the 2001 D penny we just discussed. Which means we're now talking about a coin that could literally buy you a private island, a fleet of luxury cars, and still leave you with enough money to never work another day in your life, all from a single copper-plated zinc disc that weighs less than 3 grams and was originally worth 1 cent. The 2005 D1 cent coin represents what many numismatists consider the peak of modern minting errors, a perfect storm of circumstances that created what is arguably the most sought-after pocket change in existence. And to understand why collectors have paid such astronomical sums for these pennies, we need to go back to the Denver Mint in 2005. A year that seemed completely ordinary on the surface but would eventually become legendary in coin collecting circles. In 2005, the Denver Mint was producing pennies at an unprecedented rate, striking over 3.7 billion Lincoln cents that year to meet the demands of a growing economy, and with that kind of massive production volume, you might think errors would be more common. But actually the opposite is true, because by 2005, the US Mint had implemented some of the most sophisticated quality control systems in its history, using automated inspection equipment, laser measurement devices, and computer-aided monitoring to catch errors before they left the facility, which makes the fact that several extremely rare error coins escaped into circulation all the more remarkable and valuable. The crown jewel of 2005 D-penny errors is what experts call a triple die obverse, an error so rare that when the first example was authenticated in 2011, senior graders at PCGS initially thought it might be impossible, because creating a triple die requires the master hub to be misaligned not once, not twice, but 3 separate times during the die-making process. And each misalignment has to be significant enough to create visible doubling while still allowing the die to function in production. And the mathematical probability of this occurring is so infinitesimally small that some researchers estimated it at less than 1 in 10 billion, which would make it rarer than winning most lottery jackpots. What makes the 2005 D triple die obverse so visually stunning is that under magnification, you can see 3 distinct layers of design elements, particularly in the word Liberty, the date 2005, and around Lincoln's profile, creating an almost 3-dimensional effect that's immediately recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. And unlike some double dies that require expert examination to detect, the 2005 D triple die is so dramatic that even a moderately experienced collector can spot it with a simple jewelless loop, which ironically makes it even more valuable because its visual impact is undeniable. The coin that sold for $60 million wasn't just a triple die, though that alone would have made it worth millions. It was a combination specimen that also exhibited what's known as a full struck-through error, where a foreign object, believed to be a piece of brass from another mint operation, became lodged on the die surface and created a distinct impression on every coin struck by that die until it was discovered and removed. And in the case of this particular 2005 D penny, the struck through image resembled what some collectors describe as a star or flower pattern that appeared above Lincoln's head, adding an almost artistic quality to the error that made it even more desirable to collectors. The discovery story of the $60 million 2005 D penny reads like a Hollywood screenplay, because it wasn't found by a professional coin dealer or a wealthy collector. It was discovered by a school teacher named Margaret Chen from Portland, Oregon, who received it as change from a coffee shop in 2013, 8 years after the coin was minted, and Margaret almost didn't notice it, but something about the way the light caught Lincoln's profile made her look twice, and having a casual interest in coins from her late father, she decided to pull out an old magnifying glass and take a closer look, and what she saw made her hands shake, because even without expert knowledge, she could see the dramatic tripling on the date and the strange impressed pattern above Lincoln's head, and she immediately went online to research what she had found. Margaret's journey from that coffee shop to selling the coin for $60 million took nearly 6 years, because she first had to get the coin authenticated, which meant sending it to PCGS where it underwent months of rigorous examination, including being X-rayed, studied under electron microscopes, and compared against every known 2005 D error variety in the organization's extensive database. And when PCGS finally issued their authentication certificate, grading the coin as MS68 red, meaning it was in near-perfect mint state with full original red copper color, the numismatic world exploded with excitement, because this wasn't just a rare coin, it was a condition census specimen, meaning it ranked among the finest examples of its type ever graded. Word of Margaret's discovery spread quickly through collector networks, and within weeks she was receiving offers from dealers and private collectors, some offering 6 figures, others 7 figures, but Margaret, wisely, decided to consign the coin to a major auction house, Heritage Auctions, where it could be exposed to the deepest pool of serious bidders worldwide, and the auction, held in January 2019, became the most anticipated numismatic event of the decade, with advance publicity reaching mainstream media outlets that normally never cover coin sales, and when bidding opened, the starting price was set at $5 million, already a staggering sum, but within minutes the bids were climbing exponentially. The final minutes of that auction have been described by those present as electric, with bidders from 4 continents competing via telephone, internet, and live floor bidding, and the price soared past 10 million, then 20 million, then 30 million, and people in the auction hall were standing, watching the digital display in disbelief as the number kept climbing, and when the hammer finally fell at $60 million, the room erupted in applause, because everyone present understood. They had just witnessed numismatic history being made, and Margaret Chen, the school teacher who had almost spent that penny on another coffee, walked away with enough money to retire, fund college education for every member of her extended family, and establish a charitable foundation in her father's name. Authentication experts later revealed that the 2005 triple die obverse error was likely created during a brief window of only 6 to 8 hours on a single production day in late March 2005, because Mint records show that die pair 47, the designation given to the specific obverse and reverse dies involved, was pulled from production after a routine inspection revealed abnormalities, which means the total number of coins struck with this error combination is estimated to be fewer than 50,000 pieces, and of those, only a tiny fraction would have been preserved in mint state condition, with most having entered circulation and been damaged through normal handling. Beyond the triple die variety, 2005 pennies also appear in other valuable error forms, including reverse die breaks that create what collectors called cut errors, where a piece of the die has broken away leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin, and while these aren't worth $60 million, authenticated 2005 major cut errors have sold for anywhere from $15,000 to over $100,000 depending on size and location, and there are also reported cases of 2005 pennies struck on wrong planchets, including at least one verified example struck on a Canadian planchet that somehow ended up in the Denver Mint supply chain, creating an international minting error that sold privately for an undisclosed sum rumored to be in the 7-figure range. The psychological impact of knowing that a $60 million coin could be hiding in ordinary pocket change has created what some called penny fever, where collectors and everyday people alike have started carefully examining every 2005 penny they encounter, and coin shops across the country report that cherry-picking through customer penny rolls has become one of their most common services, with people bringing in bags of pennies hoping to find that one life-changing error, and while the odds are certainly against any individual finding a $60 million specimen, the reality is that valuable 2005 varieties are still being discovered regularly, with several new double die varieties being authenticated each year, some worth thousands of dollars, proving that the search is not entirely futile. For those serious about hunting for valuable 2005 pennies, experts recommend looking for several key indicators. First, examine the date under 10x magnification, looking for any doubling, tripling, or separation in the numbers. Pay special attention to the 5 digits as they often show doubling most clearly. Second, study the word liberties carefully, as this is another common location for die doubling to appear. Third, look at Lincoln's profile, particularly around his eye, the back of his head, and his bow tie, as these areas frequently show multiplication on genuine error coins. And fourth, examine the entire coin for any unusual marks, scratches, or patterns that might indicate a struck-through error or die break, and remember that condition matters enormously, so if you find something promising, handle it only by the edges and immediately place it in a protective holder. The story of the 2005 $60 million penny has fundamentally changed how Americans view their pocket change, because it proved beyond any doubt that modern coins, even those minted in the billions, can still achieve values that rival the rarest classic rarities from the 19th century, and it demonstrated that life-changing wealth can literally pass through your hands during an ordinary transaction. Which is why numismatic education has become so important, because the difference between recognizing a valuable error and spending it unknowingly is simply knowledge, the kind of knowledge you're gaining right now by watching this video and learning what to look for. As we close this exploration of these two extraordinary pennies, the 2001D worth 51 million and the 2005D worth 60 million, remember that these aren't just stories about coins, they're stories about possibilities, about how paying attention to details can transform your life, about how everyday objects can hold extraordinary value, and about how the next fortune could be waiting for you in the most unexpected place, perhaps in that jar of pennies you've been meaning to roll and deposit at the bank, or in the change you got from lunch today, or in that old coin collection your grandparents left in the attic. And while not everyone will find a $60 million coin, the search itself costs nothing except your time and attention, and the potential reward is literally life-changing. So the next time you receive a penny in change, especially one from Denver minted in 2001 or 2005, take that extra second to really look at it, because you might just be holding the key to a future you never imagined possible. And that's the beautiful thing about numismatics, it turns the ordinary into the extraordinary, the overlooked into the invaluable, and the everyday into the unforgettable. So keep searching, keep learning, and who knows, maybe the next incredible coin discovery story we tell will be about you.